Mark Josephson was a pillar of the community, respected, admired, a lawyer with a sterling reputation. He was known for his sharp mind, his confident demeanor, and his unwavering dedication to his clients. But behind the polished facade, a darker truth lurked. Josephson was accused of fraud and embezzlement, his carefully constructed world on the verge of collapse. The accusations sent shockwaves through the legal community. Whispers turned into headlines, and the once revered attorney became the subject of intense scrutiny. It seemed unthinkable. How could someone entrusted with the life savings and futures of so many betray their trust so completely? The allegations were staggering. Millions of dollars siphoned away from unsuspecting clients. Elderly individuals stripped of their retirement funds. Families left financially devastated. The case had all the makings of a legal thriller, a tale of greed, deception, and the erosion of trust. As the accusations mounted, one question loomed large. Was Mark Josephson a cunning predator hiding in plain sight, or was he the victim of a colossal misunderstanding? The answer, it seemed, would only come to light in the unforgiving arena of the courtroom. Mark Josephson's journey to the precipice of disgrace began like that of many aspiring lawyers. He excelled in school, demonstrating a sharp intellect and a natural talent for argumentation. His ambition was evident from a young age, fueled by a desire to succeed and a belief in his own exceptionalism. After graduating with honors from law school, Josephson joined a prestigious firm, quickly climbing the ranks. He specialized in family law, real estate, and estate planning, areas where he could leverage his legal acumen to amass considerable wealth for both himself and his clients. His clientele grew steadily, drawn to his charisma, his apparent expertise, and his reassuringly calm demeanor. Years passed, and Josephson's success continued. He became a fixture in the community, known for his philanthropic endeavors and his active involvement in local charities. But beneath the surface of success, a change was taking place. Greed, once a flicker, began to consume him, whispering promises of a life of even greater luxury and indulgence. The seeds of his downfall were sown in these moments of unchecked ambition. The line between right and wrong blurred, and the once respected attorney began to view his clients not as individuals deserving of his protection, but as marks, ripe for exploitation. The transformation was subtle, insidious, and ultimately devastating. Mark Josephson's alleged scheme was as complex as it was audacious. He targeted clients with substantial assets, often elderly individuals or those unfamiliar with the intricacies of financial investments. Using his charm and reputation as a shield, he would convince them to invest in lucrative opportunities, promising exorbitant returns. These investments, however, were nothing more than a mirage. Instead of investing the funds as promised, Josephson diverted the money into offshore accounts, shell corporations, and lavish personal expenditures. He lived a life of extravagance, indulging in luxury cars, designer clothes, and multiple properties, all funded by the stolen wealth of his unsuspecting clients. To maintain the facade, Josephson created elaborate fictitious statements, showing impressive returns and masking the true nature of his fraudulent activities. He preyed on the trust placed in him, using his legal expertise to weave a web of lies so convincing that few questioned his motives. As the years passed, the scheme grew bolder, the sums involved escalating dramatically. But like all house of cards built on deception, Josephson's empire of lies was destined to crumble. It was only a matter of time before the cracks began to show, and the truth, no matter how carefully concealed, would be revealed. Broken trust, the victims' stories. The human cost of Mark Josephson's alleged crimes was immeasurable. Behind the staggering sums of money lost were real people, their lives shattered by his betrayal. Elderly couples, robbed of their retirement savings, forced to choose between basic necessities and medication. Families torn apart by financial strain, their dreams turned to ashes. One such victim, a retired schoolteacher named Mrs. Eleanor Davis, had entrusted Josephson with her life savings, hoping to secure a comfortable future for herself and her grandchildren. Years of hard work and careful planning were wiped away in an instant. The emotional toll was devastating. Mrs. Davis, I trusted him completely. He was my lawyer, my advisor, someone I thought I could rely on. Now I'm left with nothing but debt and the bitter taste of betrayal. Her story was not unique. Countless others lost their homes, their businesses, their sense of security. The emotional scars ran deep, a testament to the devastating impact of Josephson's alleged crimes. The victims, once respected members of the community, were left to pick up the pieces of their shattered lives, haunted by the realization that their trust had been so ruthlessly exploited. The courtroom drama begins. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation as the trial of Mark Josephson commenced. The prosecution, led by the formidable District Attorney Sarah Thompson, laid out their case methodically, presenting a mountain of evidence detailing the alleged scheme. Financial records, forged documents, and witness testimonies painted a damning picture. Thompson, this was not a case of a few bad decisions. This was a calculated, systematic scheme driven by greed and a callous disregard for the law. The defense, spearheaded by the seasoned attorney Robert Clayton, countered with a narrative of their own. They portrayed Josephson as a victim of circumstance, a brilliant but flawed man who had made some poor choices, but never intended to defraud anyone. Clayton argued that the prosecution's case was circumstantial, built on speculation and innuendo. He pointed to Josephson's years of charitable work and community involvement as evidence of his good character. The courtroom became a battleground of competing narratives, each side vying for the hearts and minds of the jury. The stakes were high, the pressure immense. For Mark Josephson, it was a fight for his freedom, his reputation, and his very future. For the victims, it was a chance to see justice served and to hold him accountable for the devastation he had wrought. Josephson's defense, a fight for innocence. Mark Josephson, once a picture of confidence, now appeared subdued, his face etched with worry as he sat at the defense table. His fate rested in the hands of the jury, their faces unreadable as they listened intently to the proceedings. The defense team, led by the tenacious Robert Clayton, mounted a vigorous defense. They argued that Josephson was a victim of his own success, his business dealings becoming increasingly complex and difficult to manage. They claimed that any financial irregularities were the result of negligence, not criminal intent. Clayton called character witnesses to the stand, individuals who testified to Josephson's generosity, his kindness, and his unwavering commitment to his family and community. They painted a picture of a man incapable of the crimes he was accused of, a man who had made mistakes, but whose heart was ultimately in the right place. Josephson himself took the stand, his voice firm but laced with emotion as he addressed the jury directly. Josephson, I am not a criminal. I am a good man who made some bad decisions. But I never intended to hurt anyone. I never intended to betray the trust that was placed in me. His words hung in the air, a desperate plea for understanding and forgiveness. Whether the jury would believe him, however, remained to be seen. The fate of Mark Josephson rested on a knife's edge, the line between guilt and innocence razor thin. The verdict, justice is served. After weeks of testimony, mountains of evidence, and impassioned closing arguments from both sides, the jury retired to deliberate the fate of Mark Josephson. The tension in the courtroom was palpable, the silence broken only by the rhythmic ticking of the clock on the wall. Days turned into a week, the anticipation growing with each passing hour. Finally, the jury filed back into the courtroom, their faces solemn, their verdict ready. The foreman, his voice clear and steady, read the words that would forever alter Mark Josephson's life. On the count of fraud, guilty. On the count of embezzlement, guilty. A collective gasp filled the courtroom as the weight of the verdict sank in. Josephson, his face ashen, slumped back in his chair, his gaze fixed on some distant point on the wall. For the victims, the verdict brought a mix of emotions, relief, vindication, and the bittersweet satisfaction of seeing justice served. The judge, his expression somber, thanked the jury for their service and set a sentencing date. As Josephson was led away in handcuffs, his life as he knew it over, The courtroom slowly emptied, leaving behind an eerie silence. The trial of Mark Josephson was over, but the repercussions of his crimes would continue to reverberate for years to come.